Arming radical Sunni organizations is an American strategy that harkens back to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan during the Cold War. During the Soviet occupation, the CIA armed, trained, funded, and built tunnel complexes for both groups of Mujaheddin that eventually became the Taliban and Al Qaeda. The New York Times reported in a 2005 piece titled "Lost at Tora Bora." The first time bin Laden had seen the Tora Bora caves, he had been a young Mujaheddin fighter and a recent university graduate with a degree in civil engineering. It had been some 20 years before, during Washington's first Afghan war, the decade-long CIA-financed jihad of the 1980s against the Soviet occupation, rising to more than 13,000 feet, 35 miles southwest of the provincial capital of Jalalabad. Tora Bora was a fortress of snow-capped peaks, steep valleys, and fortified caves. Its miles of tunnels, bunkers, and base camps, dug deeply into the steep rock walls, had been part of a CIA-financed complex built for the Mujaheddin. Bin Laden had flown in dozens of bulldozers and other pieces of heavy equipment from his father's construction empire, the Saudi Bin Laden Group, one of the most prosperous construction companies in Saudi Arabia and throughout the Persian Gulf. According to one frequently told story, bin Laden would drive one of the bulldozers himself across the precipitous mountain peaks, constructing defensive tunnels and storage depots. This was the same tunnel complex, interestingly, that Donald Trump dropped the mother of all bombs on in 2017. Ronald Reagan even met with Mujahideen leaders in the White House. These guys would go on to form the Taliban and the precursors to Al Qaeda. And he got buddy-buddy with them in the White House. The legacy of this quote-unquote enemy of my enemy strategy has rippled out throughout history, affecting even those who are unaware it ever even happened. AQAP, which is Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP in Yemen, is a direct successor to Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. Stanford University does an excellent job of chronicling the different Islamic militant groups in this region, who they interacted with, and how they developed into what we see today. This piece is from 2015. Al Qaeda in Yemen, AQY, was a militant Islamic group based in Yemen and the Yemeni branch of the Al Qaeda franchise from 2000 until 2009, when it merged with its Saudi counterpart to create Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP. Modern jihadi communities have been active in Yemen since the end of the Afghan war against Soviet occupation in the 1980s. After the war, many Mujahideen were not allowed to return to their home countries and settled in Yemen with Yemeni veterans of the war in Afghanistan, who then President Saleh repatriated. Saleh reportedly hired these Mujahideen to fight his enemies, from secessionists in the south to Marxists. Analysts credit an unstable political environment, a powerful tribal system, a weak local economy, and mountainous geography with providing a safe haven for extremist militants. For these reasons, Osama bin Laden identified Yemen as a desirable location to headquarter his organization. Al Qaeda had maintained a presence in the country since the 1990s, consisting mainly of foreign nationals who were recruiting Yemenis, and the main Islamic militant groups in the country between 1990 and 2003 all claimed to maintain ties with bin Laden throughout this period. It is unclear when AQY officially coalesced as a cohesive group, It did not carry out large-scale attacks until it first emerged on a global scale with the October 12, 2000 bombing of the USS Cole in the Aden harbor, which killed 17. Following the attack, the U.S. and Yemeni governments cooperated in carrying out counter-terrorism initiatives against AQY, despite Saleh's earlier dealings with militant Islamists. The U.S. government dispatched special forces and intelligence personnel supporting the efforts. In 2002, the first U.S. drone strike in the region killed AQY leader Abu Ali al-Harithi. Originally attributed to the Yemeni government, the strike was later acknowledged by Washington as a CIA operation. By 2003, AQY membership had drastically declined, and the group was largely decimated after several of its leaders were either killed or imprisoned by joint U.S.-Yemeni efforts. Further, Al Qaeda focused on operations in Saudi Arabia from 2003 to 2006, while Yemenis interested in carrying out violent jihad were largely directed to Iraq to practice in the insurgency there. After the initial surge in AQ operations in Saudi Arabia, the Saudis cracked down on AQ and many of AQ's members, who managed to escape and flee into Yemen. Meanwhile, both the Yemeni and U.S. government shifted focus away from combating the group, and experts claim that this lapsed vigilance after the initial crackdown on AQY in 2001 played a part in the group's resurgence in the late 2005 and 2006. This resurgence was fueled when the group carried out an attention-grabbing jailbreak that freed 23 of its members from a Yemeni prison in February 2006. The group that escaped included many high-ranking members of AQY, most notably Nasir al-Wuhayshi, the soon-to-be leader of AQY and founder of Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP. After this period, analysts debated whether there had been a split in the AQY membership on the ground, as one group called itself Al Qaeda organization in the south of the Arabian Peninsula, while the other claimed attacks under the name of Al Qaeda Organization of Jihad in the Arabian Peninsula, the Soldiers' Brigades of Yemen. However, others classified the two groups as overlapping cells within the same organization, and most sources continue to report on the group as a single entity, AQY. Together with Qasim al-Raymi, also a prisoner who escaped in 2003, Wuhayshi went on to revitalize AQY. The group began to carry out more attacks. A failed suicide bombing in September 2006 at an oil and gas facility was followed by an assassination of the chief criminal investigator pursuing the case of attempted bombings. In June 2007, a suicide bomber attacked a convoy of Spanish tourists, allegedly in response to Yemeni security forces killing 5 militants. In September 2008, AQY undertook one of its largest operations, attacking the American embassy in Sana'a in an assault that killed 10. In addition to its militant attacks, AQY began publishing an online newspaper entitled Sada al-Malahim, Echoes of Epic Battles, in January 2008. The newspaper, published in Arabic, served as a mouthpiece and recruiting tool for the organization. In 2009, Wuhayshi and Raymi merged AQY with the Saudi AQ branch, creating Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP. Wuhayshi became the leader of AQAP. The organization retained AQY members and tactics and continued to publish Sada al-Malahim. AQAP announced its formation in a video made by Wuhayshi, Raymi, and Saeed Ali al-Shihri, a Saudi national who was released from Guantanamo Bay in November 2007. The 3 members announced that Al Qaeda's branch in Saudi Arabia and AQY would merge to create the new AQAP. Raymi and Shihri pledged allegiance to Wuhayshi and suggested that AQAP would also include the Yemen Soldiers' Brigade, another AQ franchise in Yemen. The merger was acknowledged by Osama bin Laden's deputy, Ayman al-Zawahiri. 4 days later, the group released a 19-minute video titled, "We Start From Here, and We Will Meet at Al-Aqsa," outlining their goals and ideology. Following the merger, AQAP officially began to launch and claim attacks within and beyond Yemen's borders. In August 2009, an AQAP suicide bomber attempted to assassinate Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, but failed. On October 29, 2010, AQAP hid parcel bombs on cargo planes sent to a U.S. address, but the plot was foiled. Although the plot failed to result in casualties, it drew more global attention to AQAP and led some analysts to consider it more dangerous than even Al Qaeda's core headquartered in Pakistan. AQAP was also accused of training Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib, commonly known as the underwear bomber, who attempted to blow up a Detroit-bound plane by injecting chemicals into a package of pentrite explosive in his underwear on Christmas Day of 2009. This attack solidified fears that AQAP had become a global threat and prompted the U.S. to increase development aid to Yemen. However, even with funding to combat the group, AQAP remained highly active. Many Yemenis suspect that the government, in spite of its collaboration with the U.S., also maintained ties with AQAP. This alleged relationship could partly explain its resilience. The group's threat is also evident through their propaganda mechanisms, as they have improved recruitment measures through media campaigns. AQAP issues a bi-monthly magazine, Sada al-Malahim, The Echo of Battles, which is tailored to Yemeni audiences and publishes fatwas and praises jihadists. AQAP also produces English propaganda aimed at a Western audience through Inspire magazine, a project initiated by U.S.-born Anwar al-Awlaki and Pakistani-American Samir Khan. Despite the deaths of Awlaki and Khan in an American drone strike in 2011, the magazine continues to be published and remains influential. In 2011, AQAP leaders established an offshoot organization called Ansar al-Sharia, Yemen, ASY, in southern Yemen. ASY is an admitted rebranding attempt by AQAP leadership, which claimed that the change was meant to attract more Yemenis to Sharia rule. The U.S. State Department has listed the name as an alias for AQAP. ASY was strong at its outset, taking over parts of southern Yemen by spring 2011 and holding them for over a year. The group was successful during its governance of the area, providing services like electricity and water in addition to enforcing Sharia law, before an anti-militant group government offensive drove its members out. While the Saudis were able to dislodge AQAP from their country in 2008, doing the same in Yemen has proved to be more difficult. Obama's counterterrorism advisor John Brennan has described AQAP as the most active operational franchise of Al Qaeda beyond Pakistan and Afghanistan. There have been growing military campaigns against AQAP, which include drone strikes and efforts by U.S. Special Operations troops deployed in Yemen. But despite the efforts, the group continues to grow. AQAP claimed responsibility for the January 2015 attack on the Paris headquarters of satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, which killed 12 people. While it is unclear how involved the group actually was in the planning of the attack, it was confirmed that one of the gunmen had trained in Yemen. The conflict in Yemen, which erupted in February and March of 2015, has given AQAP room to expand. From its base in the south and southeast, AQAP has fought against both the sitting government and the Houthi rebels. In April 2015, AQAP seized an airport and a port on the Gulf of Aden, and freed up 300 members from prison. The withdrawal of American intelligence officers from the country in April of 2015, amidst growing security concerns, has reduced the number of American drone strikes that prior had been relatively effective in limiting the group's movements. However, facing new enemies in the Houthis and rivals in ISIS affiliates that have joined the fight in Yemen, it remains to be seen whether or not the conflict will continue to benefit AQAP. I think this is history trying to teach us a lesson. What is useful in the short term is not always the correct decision. If realpolitik is to be practiced, It can't be practiced effectively by those who are short-sighted. Choices should not be made in order to improve one's chances in the next election or to temporarily gain the upper hand in a geopolitical chess match. The world is far too complex, and there are far too many variables for such simplistic decision-making. We're all stuck on Spaceship Earth together, and for now, there's no way to get off. It's time to start trying to make things better. Being kings of the ash heap is not a satisfactory goal.
If you enjoyed this production by the State of Opportunity, please like and subscribe. Remember, you're the ones who make this all possible. You can also check out our Facebook page at Opportunity State and follow us on Twitter at @OfByOpportunity. If you feel like chipping in a couple bucks, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/stateofopportunity. Have a great day, and remember to always keep an open mind.